I was looking at the Mars Pets Connect Us report, and it said 83% of adults have communicated or interacted with people that they otherwise wouldn't have because they had a connection with their pets. And 73% of them, of those pet owners, interacted with people that were, let's just say, different from them, different cultures, different races, different genders, because they had that instant connection of their pets. And it goes both ways. That is the neatest thing. About a year ago, there was a study that they said they measured anxiety and stress levels in dogs and cats. And when they interacted in a positive way with people, their stress levels and cortisol levels dropped as well. Animals are not robots, right? And some people think it's a training issue or it's broken. It's just, you can manage a lot of those behaviors. So wherever you're at, if you're having problems with your pet, reach out to, your local humane society, and most of them are going to be able to help you, whether it's with food or veterinary expenses, or, just some behavioral tips and tricks to help keep those animals in their home. You're not alone.
All right, guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Hart Hustle Podcast. This is going to be an amazing conversation today because I have an amazing leader who truly represents the intersection of heart and hustle sitting across this digital table with me. Now, today's guest is the CEO of Anderson Humane. Dean, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, this is an important episode for me because I grew up in a household with a mother who was a foster mom. At all costs, she was constantly on weeknights, on weekends, saving animals, hunting for people who had lost their animals to try and reunite people in forever homes with their animals. And so I'm really excited to kind of have a better understanding about what the current landscape of humane societies look like. In today's conversation, we're really going to be talking about adoption policies. We're going to be talking about the role of pets in combating loneliness. We're going to talk about industry challenges and solutions. And we're going to talk about kind of your overall journey. So to get us started, I think we have an interesting fact that I want to share with the audience. When you were younger, you started a zoo. Let's talk about that.
Oh, that's right. It was a zoo. My dad was in the military, so I was a Air Force brat my whole childhood, and one of the places we ended up right between junior high and high school was South Dakota. So we had this little farm in Fairburn, South Dakota. Look it up. It's actually a ghost town, old railroad town, and we had about 10 acres, and we had everything: goats, dogs, cats, of course. Had a pet pigeon. Everything that you can imagine, we had it on that farm. Goats, ducks, geese, just everything. And we always had that passion. I can't ever remember a time in my life where I did not have some sort of pet companion in our household. And, really that was my dad and my mom. They passed that love and that compassion of animals on to me. My dad still, to this day, he takes his dog everywhere with him. He's city council meetings, he goes with them. To church, it goes with them. They just love it. So our whole family has a passion for it. And, I was fortunate enough to work my way into a career that works with animals every single day.
How do we kind of get on this path? I know we have an early love for animals, but often people can't make that correlation, that connection into something that they can get paid to do. So what was your journey like?
Well, I for sure am not smart enough to be a vet. I know many of them, and they all far surpass me in the brains department. So I started out in retail and had progressive leadership roles with companies like Walmart and PetSmart and some of those other ones. I took a little diversion for a while and had a couple of restaurants that I owned and operated, and really enjoyed that for a few years, and then went back into the retail sector in the pet industry with a national retailer, and worked in the stores and then in the district, and then as a regional, director of operations for the region. And then I really got my start working hands-on with especially dogs when I ran our doggy daycare division for a couple of years. And that was just a blast. Every day you'd go in, you'd see working with clients' pets and, loving on those dogs all day long. And all during that time, there was always a close connection to the different animal welfare organizations that worked with us. We would do that for fundraising and different events with them. And then I had a mentor that was in the stores with me in the operations team, and she was actually with the Petco Foundation, and then she went to work for a animal welfare organization in Chicago. And she called me up and said, Dean, would you know, I have a role. I think you would be good for it. And I said, yes, I always loved working for her. And it was a great fit. And then she moved like a week after I started there. She moved out to Anderson Humane. And I'm like, okay, I got to stay here for a while. Great organization, loved it. I really learned a lot with that organization. But then the time came and I was able to make that move out here to Anderson Humane with, I'm going to say her name, Beth Mars. She meant a lot to me and has really taught me a lot over the years. And she was the director of operations the chief operations officer, and I was director of operations. And then as we had some turnover, she took on that CEO role. And then she did that for 6 months and retired. And then it was my turn to take over the helm here. And I'm just so thankful to get to work with people that love animals every day, clients, and it's doing good for the animals and the people. So it's what it's all about, man.
I mean, it's the perfect intersection of heart and hustle. You know what I mean? Things that we love and being able to contribute to a bigger community, save animals, the hustle that's involved with that is amazing. If someone were to double click on this episode, what would be one thing that you would hope that they would learn from today's conversation?
Yeah, I would love them to take away that there is lots of opportunity for everybody to help, whether it's just fostering like your mom. I shouldn't say just fostering. That is a huge, huge impact for our organization. Without our fosters, we do about half the adoptions that we do or less. But there's something for everybody. There's opportunities. Even the smallest contribution and volunteer opportunity is so impactful to the animal welfare organizations. And, you know, you can't save every animal, but that one that you do save, right? It means the world to that animal and to the person that gives it a home for the rest of its life.
It's amazing companionship, right? I mean, I think I heard a saying one time and it made me kind of emotional on social media. It was like, you know, your dog in this example might only be there for part of your life, but you are their entire life. And when we think about just the ability to share time and unconditional love with our animals, it's something that I feel like we need to take more seriously. And so I want you to kind of paint a picture of what is the current landscape of animal welfare and humane societies look like. Are there challenges that we're facing in our communities? What's going on?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges right now. But first, let me talk about what I'm optimistic about with the animal welfare. You know, there are more spay and neuter opportunities for folks than ever before, meaning that the animals are not unwanted, that no unwanted animals are being born, at least in my area. Now, in rural areas and in other states, there's some opportunities where they don't have the access to spay and neuter like we do. But it's being solved, and we're making progress every day in communities.
Let's pause really quick, Dean. I want to talk about the idea of spay and neuter, because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about what having your pet spay and neutered actually means. Because I have other friends who have animals and they said, I would never get my dog fixed or I'd never get my animal spayed or neutered because it seems like it's a bad idea for the animal. What is the upside? What's the optimistic side of that?
Well, it does prevent some health issues as the dogs get older, for sure. That's proven. There's studies that show that, you know, getting your dog, cat spayed and neutered can help prevent different cancers as they age. Behaviorally, it can mean a lot. Dogs like to go and find other dogs, right? Cats like to go and find other cats, and it kind of takes away that need for them to roam. But most importantly, you know, it prevents the overpopulation of animals. You know, you can only place so many kittens and so many dogs or puppies in homes, and you know, let's find homes for the ones that really need it, the ones that, you know, for whatever heartbreaking reason somebody can't keep their animal. Let's give them a good home, and let's prevent that overpopulation of dogs and cats.
And that's a key element is there are so many loving animals that need a forever home. And I feel like there is a misconception where a lot of people have the idea that they want a puppy, as an example. But there are so many animals that have ended up in humane society or animal welfare that are amazing animals that can use a place to live. I'm a perfect representation of that. My dog here, we rescued him, and he's been with me for about 9 years now. Other animals that have been a part of my home have always been animals that we've rescued from the Humane Society and animal welfare. And I feel like there are so many other animals out there who deserve a shot, and not every animal has to be a puppy. Of course, you're given that opportunity to go purchase a puppy, but there are so many other animals and cats and kittens that can be rescued that I feel like deserve an awesome shot at an amazing life.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for getting an older animal. For dogs, oftentimes they're potty trained already, or they learn their potty training much faster. Depending on their age, they might be out of that adolescent period where they're need to have this deep-seated need to chew on things. Sometimes they come trained and know their cues. Other times they learn them faster. Depending on your lifestyle. Whether it's a Chihuahua or a Great Dane or a herding dog, when they're an adolescent, they need a lot of exercise and a lot of time spent with them. As they age, a senior dog can be just a couch potato, and maybe that's better fit for some folks' lifestyle. They want to have somebody that, they can take on a walk and then come home and they can both collapse on the couch and just cuddle all night long. That's great, and that's a joyful thing for them to have. And a lot of humane societies, including us, have puppies and kittens available. That's okay for somebody's lifestyle too. There's benefits for that. You have your animal and you're able to, train them and get them acclimated early. Nothing wrong with that, but I always recommend adoption if possible.
Yeah, I completely agree. I want to talk about some of the changes that have happened in this space specifically over the last couple of years. In our previous conversation, and I've mentioned it to a couple of my friends, is the cost of veterinary practices, right? And cost for vets has gone up by 34% since the pandemic. How is that impacting your guys' space?
Yeah, it's been a challenge, right? The cost of veterinary care, and even the cost of things like food and dog sitters and just everything in general has risen, and we're having more and more people requesting surrenders for financial reasons versus behavioral reasons and life changes, and that can be difficult. Some things that we're working on to do to combat that is low cost clinic. We have invested heavily and even just added a second vet. We're real excited so that we can do more low cost spay neuters, vaccines, dentals for our local community, and able to keep those pets in the home. Pet food pantries. We have people can come into our facility in adoption hours, and we're going to ask a lot of questions. We're going to help them out with that food they need to be able to keep that pet in their home. But it's true. Housing as well is another huge challenge right now. The housing crisis. I bought my first house when I was very young, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to do that. And so there's this age range where folks maybe continue to rent, and that can be a challenge to have pets. So they have to be a little bit older in some cases before they're able to get that first pet or that dog or that cat. So that we're getting a lot of folks calling saying, "Hey, I'm moving and we just can't take our pet with us." And it's heartbreaking for them. So providing resources to them to help find pet-friendly housing, affordable housing with pets, giving them different solutions is about all you can do there. But until we can kind of solve that, that's going to be one of the big challenges for the near future.
Yeah, and you've said that cats are having their day right now compared to dogs. So what does that mean?
Yeah, cat adoptions are slightly up, where dog adoptions are slightly down. What does that mean? That means the amount of dogs in the shelter that have a good outcome compared to cats having had a good outcome. We're very fortunate. We are a limited intake shelter that's not a government facility, so we're a 501c3, so we have to adopt an animal out before we take an animal in. We do not have to euthanize for space. That doesn't mean that's not necessary in some communities, right, including some other ones in our Chicago area here. We only can operate because they do, but I'm very fortunate that we are able to do that. So, you may be able to take in less animals if they're not getting adopted quite as fast, especially dogs. Cats, they're about 2% increase in their adoptions across the United States, but dogs are having a moment where they're spending longer in the shelter before they get adopted. That means less dogs are being brought in and less dogs are having that great outcome overall.
What is the annual impact of the amount of animals that you guys are bringing in to the society? What does that look like on an annual basis so people can understand the impact that you guys are having?
Yeah, the scope is really amazing when you think about it. So we'll do about 3,500 adoptions this year. It's about the same as last year. It's down from the year before, but that was kind of during that peak pandemic time when everybody was taking the pet into their home. But 3,500 animals that we bring in from the local community, from impoverished areas without access to veterinary care, that we'll adopt out. A lot of kittens, puppies, a lot of kittens from the local area. And then we're seeing, as I said, a lot of surrender requests for those financial reasons. And sometimes those animals can be a little bit harder to adopt. They're those adult dogs that have been in a home. They've known one home for their life, and it's a huge change for them. So we try to do the best we can for those animals, make them comfortable, and get them adopted as quickly as possible.
I'd like to talk a little bit about something that you had mentioned, which is in our previous conversation, which was open adoption policies. What does that mean, and what is the benefit to that?
Yeah, so we are looking for ways to say yes. Now, there's nothing wrong. We put our heart and soul into these animals, and we become attached to them. And so there's some organizations that may have some more restrictive policies, right, that take a little bit longer to do that adoption, that are looking for that perfect home for it. I say I'm looking for a good home for our animals, right? I'm looking for a loving home. And that means that when you come in, we're going to ask you some questions about your lifestyle, and we're going to try to match you with an animal that's going to be a good fit for your family, or guide you to that right animal. And most of the folks that come in are going to qualify for an adoption, and we're going to send them home with an animal if there's a good fit for them. And if not, they'll come back in a week and we'll have something different for them and they can get it then. But we're looking for ways to say yes. That allows us to adopt out that 3,500 animals every year and really take care of them and place them into loving homes.
There was an amazing story about Snowflake that you shared with me last time we talked. Can you share that story again?
Yeah, let me give you the kind of the backstory on that. So one of the things that is a huge benefit to practicing open adoptions, it takes away a lot of the discrimination in adoptions, right? Like people that maybe look different than me, dress different, or speak differently than I do or my team. Sometimes that can be hard. You don't know, are they going to be a good home or not? So we really try to look at it logically. Why do we think there's a barrier to adoption? What can we do to take down that barrier to adoption? I need to check my implicit bias, right? And make sure that we're making a good decision. So my example for that is Snowflake. So I like to have an office dog in, and sometimes that can be a more challenging dog. And Snowflake was a 6-year-old pitty mix, and she would pull hard on a lead. She was slightly dog reactive, and took a little bit to warm up to people. So she's my office dog. First couple days, she looked at me cross-eyed, and then after a week, she was my best buddy and went everywhere in the shelter with me, take her on a couple walks a day. But she sat with me for about 6 months while we were looking for a great home for her. And then a lady named Shirley came in, and Shirley was about 90 pounds soaking wet. I was thinking, how is she ever going to walk Snowflake? She was advanced in age. And she came right in and was loving on Snowflake. I go, there's no way she's going to be able to handle Snowflake, especially, frankly, at her age. And, I was talking with her, and she was going to go home and think about it. And I was really kind of trying to talk her out of this adoption. And I went home and I really just thought, and I convicted myself on why don't I want to, adopt to Shirley? She has given me no reason not to, if we can make sure that it's going to be a good fit for her. So, I talked to Shirley the next day, and she was still wanted to take Snowflake home. And I said, so tell me about your yard. And, she had a fenced yard, but I'm not sure if it's good. So I don't do this for everybody, but I went out and checked her fence, not to see that she had one, but just to make sure it was right for her. I was going to fix it if we needed to, right? And I took Snowflake over to her house and we did an in-home visit. Again, not something we usually do, but for Snowflake, she got the little extra treatment. And, within a week, Snowflake was happy in Shirley's house. She was laying on the bed. She was out and in. And, every day I'd get a text from Shirley 3-4 times a day at first. Hey, what are we feeding? What do I do here? And I'd happily to ask her because I was really glad that Snowflake had a great home. And, after a while, we'll just get a text every week and then every month. And then after about a year and a half, I haven't gotten a text from Shirley in a little bit. And, I texted her and then she texted back. And then about a week and a half later, I got a call that Shirley had passed away, which was heartbreaking, right? And they're like, we can't get Snowflake out of the house. She is distraught. And of course she was, right? She had her best friend, right, had just passed. So we went in and she remembered us, of course, and I had visited a couple times, and she jumped right in my truck, and we went back to the shelter, and she was my office dog again for not as long this time, about 6 weeks, because I knew how to talk about Snowflake now. And this is a nice part. We took her to an adoption event, one of our partners, a really large one. After most of the dogs had been adopted, I went back for more and got her so she could have her space, right? And then a couple that came in, they were a little tentative because they had adopted a dog, and it hadn't worked out. And just like we say, we're going to give you a chance with an animal, we'll take them back if it's not working out. It just wasn't a good fit for them. So again, other agencies would say, hey, you returned a dog once, you're not getting any more out, right? No, man, if this doesn't work, this dog wasn't a good fit for you, and you did everything you can. I mean, it's, we talked to him, and so we tried him with Snowflake, and it's kind of the same thing. Went over to the house and got him set up, and now she is with this wonderful couple who just love Snowflake, and so she had 2 good outcomes. But I want to think about what that year and a half that she had with Shirley meant to Shirley, right? And what it meant to Snowflake. I mean, they had a bond. I could see that every time. When I tell this to a big group of folks, I tear up because it's just such an emotional story. But so Snowflake got 2 chances, and she hit the lottery both times, and she's happy in her home. I check in on them once in a while, and she's doing great. But had I just went with my gut reaction when Shirley came in, she wouldn't have had that opportunity to have that love of Snowflake and to give Snowflake that love. And it might have been another 3 months before she got adopted. Who knows? Or maybe until the other couple came in a year and a half later, So you never know. And it keeps us honest. So, our team, if they say no, if they can't guide somebody to the right animal and have to say no to an adoption, and we do sometimes, we have to, but I'm going to ask them about it. Why? What did we have to do? And they know they're going to have to tell me. And it really takes away those barriers and those, as I said, implicit biases, and makes it kind of an even playing field for everybody.
There's an element which is so human in that, which is judgment.
Yeah.
Right? When we have something that sits in front of us like Snowflake that we've made a bond with, we want to make sure that she is going to be okay. And so naturally it's okay to think about how we're going to protect her. But in order to create opportunities for connection in the future, we kind of have to let her go, right? And I love the fact that you aren't holding a returned animal as an example against a family, because you said it perfect. Not everybody's a perfect fit on the first time.
Yeah, and they learned a little bit, and I looked into the case and found out what the return was for, and it was for a legitimate reason. It was not a good fit for their life at that time. And the other benefit to that is, had I said no, that was a spot that I couldn't bring another animal in to help save their lives, right? Or our team couldn't bring another animal in to save their lives. So Snowflake went in, but that gave how many other animals opportunities to come into the system and find that loving home.
You are a perfect representation about what this podcast is really all about, man. Just like being able to have an open heart to create opportunities for connection that can last a lifetime, or for the reason and the season of why they're there, like Shirley and Snowflake. And I'm sure the owners of Snowflake, if they ever get, a hold of this podcast, are going to look back and see her amazing story and the path that led her to them, which is really cool. There's an element of isolation and loneliness that I feel like you have a real opportunity to kind of harp on here. So in 2022, the Surgeon General came onto a national broadcast and mentioned that the biggest challenge in our society today is isolation and loneliness. I want to talk about how animals can create a sense of companionship. It can help us reduce struggles that we have from a mental health perspective, like anxiety. How does that kind of stuff work with our animals?
Yeah, well, studies have shown that just 10 minutes of petting or interaction with a dog or a cat can reduce anxiety, stress, and your cortisol levels immensely, and can improve your heart health, not to mention the other benefits of connection with that animal and having that companionship. It also provides many, many social opportunities. I was looking at the Mars Pets Connect Us report, and it said 83% of adults have communicated or interacted with people that they otherwise wouldn't have because they had a connection with their pets. And 73% of them, of those pet owners, interacted with people that were, let's just say, different from them, different cultures, different races, different genders, because they had that instant connection of their pets. And it goes both ways. That is the neatest thing. About a year ago, there was a study that they said they measured anxiety and stress levels in dogs and cats. And when they interacted in a positive way with people, their stress levels and cortisol levels dropped as well. So it really is a perfect. I mean, we've been working on it for 10,000 years, right? Dogs and cats. We are bonded. We are together, and we work together with them. Physiological. We help each other along, right?
We really do. It's a perfect example. I've got a little guy who's sitting back here. If anybody who's watching the episode can see, my dog Kel. So got him when he was very young, and we grew up in a house of me and 5 other guys. And so our house when I was in college was kind of more like a communal gathering spot, right? And Kel has bouts with anxiety today. When he's alone by himself, he really gets anxious and he gets kind of shaky. And we've had some issues that we've dealt with, but one thing I notice is when people are around, just like this study talks about, he's so much calmer, he's so much more relaxed, and he's so much more friendly. And I think about just how much humans mean to him, because he's always been such a social animal. And I feel like it's really important to recognize that study goes both ways, right? Not only does he reduce my stress, but I reduce his, which I guess means that we were meant to be together. You know what I mean?
He's your companion, right? And that's what it's all about. It's about companionship and connection and really just creating that wonderful, loving bond. And clearly you have it with him. And, it's such a blessing that I get to help facilitate those connections each and every day.
Do you ever get time to pause and think about the sense of gratitude that comes along with the joy and the sense of connection and the support that you have been able to create just by the role in which you play in connecting all of these animals with their forever homes?
I tell you what, a lot of times it's what keeps me going, right? It's the same as any other role, right? There are problems. We're a nonprofit, so I am always worried about money. It is the biggest thing we worry about, right? Is where's the money coming to do this? Where's the money coming to do that? Or, we have those problems just like every other organization does. But you're right. You stop and you get to think about the mission that we're embarking on, and that we're able to fulfill those connections with people, and the animal that we're helping, and really that person that is making that connection as well. And animal welfare can be tough, right? We are right up there, and this is a bummer part, but we're right up there with they say dentists and police officers and those high risk professions for suicide, because folks get burnt out. And I really think the key to that, it's easy to say, but the key to helping prevent that is to think about the good you're doing. Don't, help the animal that you're trying to help. And when you can't, when it doesn't work out, when that animal's returned, and there's some returns that or surrenders that, man, they're better off with us, right?
Right.
Not a lot, but some. And when you see that, and it's easy to get jaded. So I think you're right, Keenan. It's so, so important to focus on the mission, focus on the good that we're doing, focus on, the positive outcomes that we're able to have.
To use an animal reference, birds of a feather flock together, right? And the one thing that I've recognized in my experience of growing up is there is a certain type of person who is willing to serve animals, to serve beings that can't stand up for themselves. How do you kind of think about building a culture in the humane society and thinking about the people that come and support? Who are the type of people that come and serve every single day right by your side?
It's a lot like other organizations. There's a wide variety. You have your people that love animals, but they really love people, and they can really make that connection with the clients that we're servicing. And then we have the folks that are coming in that really have this deep passion for animals and feel sometimes maybe more connected to animals than they do people, and that's okay. Maybe they're quieter, maybe they're more introverted, and hey, I just want to walk dogs and clean kennels or interact with the cats, and we'll let our adoption team work with the clients, and that's okay too, right? We've got something for everybody. But what's really gratifying is people don't think of animal welfare in general as a career opportunity. I really have been blessed to see folks develop in their careers and advance and be able to take care of their family while working in a humane society and working in fulfilling a really impactful mission. And so trying to develop folks is really a kind of a passion to keep them engaged with this work and show them that they can be here for a while. And then there's some folks that come and they're working at, we just had a gentleman who was a kennel tech for us. He's one of our leads, and he just graduated from nursing school, and he's after 2 or 3 years he's going on to, at the end of the year, to be a nurse. Great. We loved having him for his season in animal welfare, and I know he's gonna volunteer and foster and all the other good things for us as well.
Yeah, you definitely can't shake that bug once you've been a part of it. It's always been something that I've thought about. When I have capacity, it's always important to show up and to serve the animals who don't have anybody to serve them.
Absolutely.
So Dean, what is a topic that maybe we haven't been talking about here today that we should be talking about more?
Yeah, it's so important right now to get involved with the ability to keep those animals in their homes right now, right? So and I've touched on this several times, animals are not robots, right? And some people think it's a training issue or it's broken. It's just, you can manage a lot of those behaviors. So wherever you're at, if you're having problems with your pet, reach out to your local humane society, and most of them are going to be able to help you, whether it's with food or veterinary expenses or just some behavioral tips and tricks to help keep those animals in their home. You're not alone, and sometimes you don't have to always give up those animals. Your animal does not have to be perfect. Behaviors can be managed, right? You said your dog sometimes has a little bit of anxiety. Mine doesn't like children, right? So I just keep him away from children. If we have him over the house, he's happy in the bedroom for a couple hours. There's ways to manage many of those behaviors. Same thing with cats, right? There's ways to manage those behaviors. So just really focus on trying to keep those animals in the home is very important.
And that's part of it, right? I mean, just like humans, we all have our different tendencies. We all have our different areas of focus, and we all have different things that make us unique. And I think it's really important to recognize that every animal is not going to fit in every scenario, and that's not a bad thing. Like you said, if someone were to hear this episode and they say, the dog doesn't like children, why isn't a dog like kids? Because not every animal like kids. You know what I mean? Kel doesn't appreciate being by himself, but my other dog, Lucy over here, loves being by herself. And she hangs out on the couch and watches TV all day. That's just not his bag. And so recognizing that we have to be adjustable, we have to be flexible enough to meet these animals where they are, to give them the respect and the love that they deserve, I think is really important, and we should really harp on that. So I'm glad that you really brought that up.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, they're a lot like people, right? There's certain things that, quirks that people have, right? That you're not, it's not even a matter of fixing it. It's just who they are. And sometimes it's the same way with animals, and you can manage that behavior, or put them in situations where they thrive versus having to go with that. One thing we haven't talked about is our work with wildlife. So we've talked a lot about our domestic side, but we work with over 3,000 wildlife animals every year as well with our rehab program. So everything from
Wow.
orphaned and injured turtles and ducks and geese to raccoons and raptors, and you name it, we get them into our wildlife center, and that is different, but much the same. Of course, we're not trying to adopt these. Our goal for these animals are to release them out into the wild, but it's many of the same types of folks: compassionate, hardworking. We've got interns and staff and volunteers that will feed baby birds, especially in June, every 15 minutes from sun up to sundown. Every 15 minutes, and then it's a little less, and it's now an hour, and then it's 2 hours, and then they can go out to the flight cages, and then you see those animals released into the wild. It is such a wonderful thing, whether it's a hummingbird or a turtle that crawls back into the river. It's amazing to see the positive outcomes, and sometimes that's given the wildlife a dignified and kind end of life. If they're too injured to rehab.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of emotional maturity for our folks to be able to do that, and it also takes a toll on them to work with those animals. So they're really, really, I'm going to call them heroes, our wildlife team. They're all our staff is heroes, but the wildlife team especially, because they have to have a special compassion for those wild animals.
Man, well, we've talked a lot about some of the opportunities that are in front of us, some of the challenges that come along with being a leader of an organization like yours. If we had to use the next couple seconds here to create a call to action for people to reach out, give their support, either with time, just their presence, or financially, what would be a piece of advice to them if somebody wants to get involved?
Yeah, just take that first step, okay? Call the organization, go on their website, sign up to volunteer. Every animal welfare organization needs financial support. They just do. Or whether it's dollars or in-kind donations, they need that. Every animal welfare organization needs volunteers. Like I said, that's our lifeblood, and we have volunteer opportunities for everything, whether it's administration to, as I said, hands-on cleaning. And a lot of people want to do, that variety of activities. And we have folks that do both, right? We've got volunteers that work 40 hours volunteering every week for us. And I feel like they're like one of our staff members. And when they say and have an idea, man, that means a lot, because they're even more engaged than our staff members. They're one of us, right? They're one of the team. And as you said, your mom fostered for many years, and that is always a way to provide that loving home for them while they're waiting for their next stop on their journey is impactful. No matter how good we make the shelter, and we do a lot of enrichment for our animals, right? We do everything from, our dogs get 4 walks a day, our cats are out multiple times a day, we play games with them and puzzles with them, volunteers lead those teams. But no matter what we do, it's not as good as being in your home. And if you can keep them in your home and provide that love for them and then let them go, and it's not necessarily easy, but then take somebody else in, you're saving more and more animals. And they're just an amazing group, those fosters. So there's multiple ways. Just get involved. That's what I would say. Just get involved.
And how can we find more information about your organization?
Yeah, Anderson Humane. It's ahconnects.org. If you Google Anderson Humane South Elgin, we'll pop up, and you'll be able to click on our website and get the information about us.
That's amazing, man. Well, as we kind of land the plane here, one of our traditions on the podcast is to ask a question that came from a previous guest. And I'm really interested to see how you answer this one. So the frame of this is, as a leader of an organization, and as we go through life as individuals, we always go through our ups and downs. And sometimes we have to lean on a memory to think about who was somebody who brought us joy when you were leaned into, somebody invested time and made you feel like you were at the center of the world, who was that one person who you can think of that made you feel incredibly special and just feel like you were on top of the world?
Well, I gotta say, my rock for the past 32 years has been my wife, Angie. And, through the ups and the downs, she is always there for me. She's involved with Anderson as well. She's one of the she's not doesn't work here, but she's one of the team members, right? She knows more about Anderson than anything else. And whenever I have to think of someone to lift me up, it's my wife, Angie, for sure.
Well, that's amazing. Well, everybody who's tuning in, watching, and listening today to the Hart Hustle Podcast, let's give Dean a huge round of applause for the amazing work that you're doing, lifting up those who need a voice and need support in this world, and just creating so much opportunity for connection and companionship, man. It really means a lot, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Seriously.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm blessed to have such a wonderful group that I get to work with every day, including our board members and our volunteers and our staff who give their heart and soul to the animals that we care for.
And there we go, guys. That's a wrap. We'll catch you in the next one.